and thought anyone actually knew exactly what the technology I wanted to, but that was the biggest option for life. It appeared as though, it appeared because they refused, they refused the approach.
Oh, Griffiths
Rejected. Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, the board of directors rejected the approach.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I think they were at the lower echelons of the league, facing relegation.
Get ready to rumble!
There's no money there. Every penny that they had, civil positions you want, there is now, was paid into a ground share agreement, £500 a match, whatever it was. It might even be more at that stage. And I didn't feel as though Skelmersdale United Football Club was coming back to Skem. So I know why I've been asked the question. So what I did was then I had an opportunity of keeping Stormy Corner, which was a fit-for-purpose Northern Premier League ground with the corners to make it money. I had an opportunity of what I wanted to bring Skem back to Stormy Corner. Like I said, they rejected the advances. So when I felt that it got to this way, I suppose I thought I'm going to start Skelmersdale AFC up here. And that's what I attempted to do. And would I have done the same? Would I do the same thing now as I did back then? I probably wouldn't. But in order, when you have plans to find the interest, I went in terms of social media, asked a lot of questions, answered a lot of questions, and people. Mainly a small group of people using usual troll like stuff. So it put people off actually entering into an agreement with me in the first place. So the intention was to take over and register with the FA, and everything was set to get. Even had North West Counties down to do a ground grading to tell me what needed to be done. So there were things that needed charging a little bit. So that was what was going to happen. I was going to do that. But then, short period after, the chair now offered the lifeline to Skelmersdale United Football Club and Jim Roberts and said, listen, I'll bring it up to the standard required for you to come back. At that stage, I think Skem were bottom of the league. I decided that it was no longer in the best interest of Skem to have two clubs. And we've only had one in town. If it hadn't been for Germany, so I then approached them and I said to them, listen, I want to take over the run of the football club. I want to put a new manager in. I want to shake the committee around a little bit. I want people to resign so I can bring people on board. So there's a consortium of people. I offered, in the interim, £25,000 to pay for wages for players in order to get them out of the relegation zone, which was still a remote possibility at that stage. And I think it was around either late December 2017 or early January 2000. And once again, they didn't want me to be involved. They wanted me money, but they didn't want me to be involved. And as I said to them at the time, don't expect me to put my money into this football club and not have a say how it's spent. So it didn't happen. But I didn't go back and continue forming Skelmersdale AFC. I still believe now that there's only one space of this.
That's as may be. So your questions then to follow on. At this point, you're not involved in football at all. Why did you feel compelled to make a new team for the town of Skelmersdale?
Oh my God!
It would have been easier to just stand back and watch it all unfold. I understand and I'm sure many people understand you're wanting to get back involved with Skelmersdale United and offering a financial solution and a takeover of the chairmanship. But to actually then go and form a second Skelmersdale named club when the initial proposal was rejected, you can understand why people would raise an eyebrow at that.
Yeah, I do, but I refer to what I said before. If you're in a position where you can help someone, you try your best to help. We weren't talking about spending over football. We weren't talking about amalgamating with playground. We were talking about next year, we've been very successful year. I'm talking about myself. Exactly. What I'm saying is, at that period of time when I was chairman, it was a very, very successful period.
Just remind us of the years that you were chairman in the first
2006 to 2009. So 5 years. I think we finished four times in the playoffs out of 5 seasons. We had really, really good sponsorship deals. Actually, really good ladies. I think at one stage we were generating income around about £80,000 a year before the circa £60,000 to £80,000 with ground share and sponsorship deals. Of course, money that we were making from the clubhouse when it was successful. So it was a successful period.
Yeah.
I left the club because
Let's get ready to rumble!
We didn't have the money to finance the renovations for the stadium. We had a set of modular changing rooms, and we had a modular clubhouse, and it was rotting. The floorboards were rotting, and we had to be replaced. And in fairness, Paul Griffiths used to do that. He was a builder, so he used to do that, and pretty much at cost price when he did. But we had to continually do that, and I think the landlords were not going to. They were not going to pay for the refurbishment of the ground, so we had to do it. So many ways, we put our into one basket. We tried to be as ambitious and competitive as we possibly could be, which was reflected in the position we faced in the league. Playing FC United in the final Gig Lane, and running Chester. I think we lost out on promotion with 1 goal. We competed against the likes of FC Halifax, AFC Fylde, clubs like that. I don't know if you've seen they've all gone on to do bigger and better things.
So to bring that back to Skelmersdale AFC, so you wanted to put this plan in place after the current board of directors rejected your offer of a takeover at Skelmersdale United despite your credentials. No, not a takeover, but certainly an element of involvement. We'll call it an involvement.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one, you have to remember at the time, this is not me. I was a club manager, there's no certain years. I can take control of the football for the day. I will give you a release.
It's what we call it.
It's what we call it, and make good sense. Skelmersdale United Football Club have a lifetime background. It's really nice to take it. And we're all trying to do the best thing for the football club, and I don't know until we won't know until a few years down the line whether I made the best decisions, the good decisions, or the wrong decisions. We won't know, only time will tell. Mistakes were made back then, but those mistakes that were made by other custodians, and they're not deliberate mistakes, they're honest mistakes. I don't think anybody at this level, particularly me and other people that I know at this level of football, and I talk about nice football clubs in well-run family football clubs in non-league football, and I think most people realise the mistakes you make are honest ones. You don't deliberately do something to be belligerent.
Not good.
You just don't do that.
No, you don't. No, I understand where you're coming from. So the involvement is rejected. So Skelmersdale AFC
Come join my
a
Discord.
brainchild. And it's
https://discord.gg/yqsh7xxdzm.
Okay. Why did you feel the need to have a second Skelmersdale team when at this point Skelmersdale were still in existence, just weren't in the team?
They were struggling to make ends meet. They were struggling to pay the bills. Paul Griffiths, the chairman at the time, was paying the ground share agreement to believe most of the money was coming out to his pockets. I know personally now how draining that is financially and mentally and physically. The hours that you put into football. So at some stage you feel as though something's going to break, something's going to snap. And I felt as though I was going to step at that stage, but I also wanted to make sure that we stepped at that stage. And I did feel at the time, and I'm not sort of elaborated on it before, but I did have a feeling that if the worst case scenario, if we rebrand the club, we can become Skelmersdale United Football. Once again, it was never a long-term aim to be Skelmersdale AFC against Skelmersdale United. It was to protect football and have a legacy in Skem and the ground, because there's nowhere else for Skem to go at that stage. You have to remember, the JMO was a fit for purpose at that stage. So we couldn't have gone to the JMO and played in the Northern Premier League at the JMO. That just wasn't on the cards. So protecting the ground, keeping the ground within the town, I felt as though it was my obligation to do that.
Why? You weren't involved. I know you weren't involved, but is it based on?
I love Skem.
Okay.
I love the club.
Okay.
When I left the football club, I was made to feel as though I'd left it under a in terms of things were said by people now that still say the same things. We've been proven time and time that's because once they're said, they're out there and they're fixed. And I can't unfortunately do anything about that. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that we still had a stadium. It makes sense, that doesn't it? Keeping a stadium that's fit for purpose against Skem, keeping it, and then if the worst case scenario was, the other thing at some stage we probably need to before it was right. We're with you, we're on board now. It wasn't rocket science. All they had to do was to join forces with me, but as a custodian of that football club. And when I say that football club, Skelmersdale United Football Club belongs to the supporters. I am a custodian, but I'm a supporter as well. So I feel as though I've got a much bigger stake than ordinary folk, because I've invested time, effort, money into it. But in terms of protecting a legacy, I thought that was the only way possible to do it, was keeping Stormy Corner, because otherwise, as we've seen now, it's been sold off and it's getting redeveloped right as we speak. It's such a pity. It's such a pity that people could have forgotten about the table and protected it. But this wasn't an amalgamation of two teams. It could have been in the end, but it was protected legacy is going to be.
I understand why they wouldn't want you to come in and be involved. Yes, you've had your background of extended success between 2006 and 2011, and you have the funds there readily available. But considering you've just rejected an offer of an involvement from this consortium, whereby they said we get rid of all the people on board. You came into Skem in 2017 and 18 and said that you wanted to rejig people on the board as well. What's the difference between their consortium being rejected and your consortium being rejected?
I wasn't about it. Plain and simple, I just wasn't about it. I was an interested party in protecting Skem. I didn't want to change the look, the feel, the history of it, to protect the legacy.
You still wanted some people out on the board of directors?
in order to get the lease at Stoney Corner, that was the proposal.
So was that an arrangement that you'd had with Mr. Gilchrist? Did he make it clear that he wanted some people off the board of directors, or did you know that there were people on the board of directors who may be a threat to your return to Stoney Corner?
If Stoney Corner was still there and somebody else was the landlord and they'd fallen out with me, if I'd been approached by someone that used to be involved with Skelmersdale United Football Club and had Skelmersdale in its best interests, I would have invited them back onto the board. I would have stepped down to protect the legacy of Skelmersdale United Football Club. This is totally different. These are rivalries. There's no proof of progression, where the money's coming from to finance it. There's no absolute proof at all. They'll argue that social media don't come back to us. But listen, we're going to truths are being told. So, and this takes a little bit of a turn here, because when I was in the process of forming Skelmersdale AFC, I Jay, relatively new to play down, I think he formed the club. He was really interested in being part of it. I think they wanted to probably take over as manager. And I've seen Nick Matthews has said on social media that they were approached to become joint managers. Well, it's not true at all, because bearing in mind Nick Matthews, Jay Howard sat in relatively similar positions to where you're sitting now, across from me. They only knew that somebody else was going to be the new manager. I made no. Tommy was at some of the meetings. I made no bones about the fact that Tommy Wilson would be the new manager on both occasions. It didn't matter whether it was moving back. And listen, to answer another question, by the way, why? Because I've been not involved with the football club for several years. I was approached by two people from Skelmersdale United Football Club who were in situ at the time and said, listen, come back, save this football club.
That was between the years of 2011 and 2000.
No, this was in 2017.
Yeah, so this was when you were out of chairmanship.
This is when I was out of chairmanship. So this is before they were kicked out of Stoney Corner.
Right.
So people already knew that the likelihood was they were going to get kicked out of Stoney Corner. That's the way I've read to believe it since the time. There's 58 years of age.
Time erodes memory.
You forget a lot of it's documented, a lot of it isn't. But at that particular time, I was approached by two people from the football club. And people forget that, and I'm not going to throw them under the bus. To them to discuss with other people whether they want to know their involvement with me at that particular time. There was a groundswell of opinion that wanted Frank Hughes to take over Skem because he didn't want it to stay out in Prescott. But this wasn't a hostile takeover. This was an attempt at keeping Skelmersdale United Football strong. Totally different. This is about bringing Skem back to the JMO under new ownership, under our rivals, without a clear plan. The pathway, we can understand the pathway. We can understand that they've got 160 teams collectively. We can understand that they've got over 300 junior teams in their West Lancashire Junior League. We understand that they've monopolised football. They're very astute businessmen in their field of football. Listen, praise to them. They're doing a really, really good job. But at the end of the day, Skelmersdale United Football Club is Skelmersdale United Football Club.
I want to move on to your tenure at Skelmersdale United Football Club. See, we've had two periods of chairmanship here, 2006 to 2011, and then 2003 to the present day. And I think the one thing that stands out for me right now, and it's most prevalent in your second tenure here is the similarities between your experience as a chairman and what you've experienced as somebody external to the club. So you have attempted to come into Skelmersdale United at its time of need. You were turned away. You then made plans for you've been vilified on social media for that. This consortium has attempted to take over Skelmersdale United Football Club at its time of need. Been rejected. Form a new club. They were already doing that, but that just what they've done is they've formed a new club again under the Skelmersdale name, and they're being hailed as some kind of heroes to the return of football to the town of Skelmersdale. From a personal perspective, how does that make you feel?
I wish them the best of luck. I genuinely do. Football's all about competition. How can you have a setup like that with being ambitious and trying to work the way through the leagues? They started as a Saturday team and turned to Saturdays, and now they're making that sort of elevation from amateur football in the hope that they can play in the North West Counties. You have to applaud the ambition of anybody that puts that time and effort into it, albeit that they're getting paid for the job, the field of experience that they're in, the football.
The three heads of the consortium.
It's great. So it's still playground. It's still playground. If I go upstairs now, not that I'd fit in one of my wife's dresses, but if I put a dress on, wear high heels, throw a wig on, and loads of makeup on, and call myself Shirley, people will still know me. That's right. I'm not being sarcastic, but in order to lose that tag, you probably have to go away. Or you have to appeal to people that really don't know a great deal about Scotland. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to garner interest from the public in Scotland and say, listen, you can watch regular football, probably cost-free at the moment. You can see us move up the ladder, you can be a part of the big... All your kids are playing for us, and you're part of the bigger... You can play a big part in the future.
Sounds enticing.
On paper, it's amazing, isn't it? If they've got 300 teams in the West Lancashire League, and they've got 160 teams in Skelmersdale or surrounding areas, I'm sure that's 300 sounds 20 kids. 9, 6, 7, 8,000.
Oh my God!
On paper, it's absolutely amazing, but it's playground. Now, no disrespect to playground right now. It's playground playing at a level than Skelmersdale United football. I wish them all. I have no issue with them at all. I'm just putting my points across, because what's happened is there's so you have to ask the question, it's obvious to me that it's been done to discredit me because I've not said yes. Fine, it's business. Do it. Have your best shot. I'm simplest. I feel it's made out to be, but because of it, because of the weakness of the parties, and because of the questions of accountability, it's swollen into something else. It's going back in time and backwards and forwards in time all the time. And a lot of what carpet fill the FIFA concept. I wasn't involved with the club. I wasn't fill the FIFA concept. I wasn't involved in the club when they appealed to the better nature of people in power at the JMO to replace that carpet and expect them to do it. I know, as I've said it before, if you walk into JMO next season, I've said it before, if I haven't got security of tenure, I can't apply for the funding streams, so I can't improve that facility. I have to split a lot and move out to move up. So I have to go and share some it's not right. Everything about it isn't right. It's not the right fit.
Do you anticipate this new consortium with their new venture having the same kind of difficulties in getting an improvement on JMO? Speaking as a businessman, you've had experience with Collinson and JMO in the past.
I've spoken to those three parties, and according to them, they believe that, their words, by the way, that the carrot dangler is the fact that they've got over 300 teams in the West Lancashire. They're not using that, by the way. They're not leveraging anything. If you really think about it, what they're saying is the original deal with Joe and Rafa was joint forces. You'll keep everything from under 11s in our control, and everything from under 12s upwards will be in the control of Skelmersdale United Football Club. So then there's a pathway from the under 12s right up to the first team, and that was basically how it was going to fund itself. Now that sounds, it sounds fabulous. The deal changed when Jay. When the change, and it could have been, it could have worked, but it needs to work on. I can't go into a meeting outside. I can't receive an email on Tuesday morning and be expected to make a decision about the business. That's not how business works. It's a little bit of cockiness and stuff. There's no doubt about it. Once again, inflation. That's fine. We go again. We're in competition. We're always in competition. That's what people forget. Is that we're good competitors.
Well, my original question was, do you envisage them having the same difficulties in having the JMO facilities improved? They use sounds
kind of for you know. Yeah, I think the other thing to look at is that the term of the lease that JMO have with the council.
It's less than 20 years.
Less than 20 years, 15 possibly, a little bit more. I'm not too sure the exact figures. If the council don't renew that lease with JMO, who's to say they want something for building? I don't know. I'm not suggesting they are, because policies changes day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Anything can happen, but there's no guarantee that anybody that's in situ, listen, it might go down to tender then. Let's say at the end of them 15 years, that okay, if anybody wants to take over the facility now, you're going to have to tender for them. As it stands right now, they seem to really like it to take it over. Let's imagine that doesn't happen. And after the 15 years, we look at Claybound, I think Skelmersdale Town, whatever you want to call it, progressing and doing really well, getting into the non-league system. At the end of that 15 years, if the council don't renew the lease for I'm just posing the obvious question that should be asked. There's no guarantees in this. No guarantees that we're going to win the next game. There's no guarantees that we're going to walk across the road and survive it these days. There's no guarantees in this world. It's toxic. The inside world is toxic, and we're slightly off charted it. But if you look at the world as it is now, it's messy.
So there's no guarantee at this point that John Millinson would facilitate any kind of changes to the quality of the pitch to assist.
I believe he is going to.
Okay.
Purely by speaking to Steve Tomlinson, who reckons it will definitely happen. He's like his commander-in-chief, whatever. He's looking after his businesses. I mean, in fairness to John Jones, he's getting on years living low, but he's not in the best of health. So I think his daughter plays a big part in it. There's a lot of improvements being made at the JMO, by the way. Now, but what I did is, as I said, when the olive branch was offered, recently, before Christmas, I think it was, when they turned around and said, listen, we're inviting people past they've been using the facility to come back. We've let a lot of people down. We want to turn the corner and make friends again. My first call was to Steve Tomlinson, and I said to him, listen, is there any chance that we'll be part of that olive branch? Just don't forget about it. We're still here. We're still here. Even after I reminded Steve Tomlinson that I'm not going anywhere. Skelmersdale United Football Club, I'm not amalgamating with anybody else. So yeah, I'm trying
the GM to facilitate this return as much as you can. And it would have been only your stewardship that and this amalgamation between Playground and Skelmersdale United that it could realistically still happen.
Without me?
Yeah.
Pick it up.
Yeah.
I like to think anybody that comes and takes on the mantle of running the football club, makes more sense. Well, for the reasons that I've said, this is nothing. This isn't anything against Playground or the consortium. This is purely about politics. We've entered into agreements and conversations with people that are going to help us get back to Skem. If people expect me to walk away from that at this stage, well, I think crowd football, it's just not something in my nature to do. If you imagine in the next 3 timeline justice, but to imagine that we will have a purpose-built community hub in Skelmersdale, that's a non-profit organisation in Skelmersdale in a central position with a new regenerated town, something that is created by the people, for the people, not something that's made for profit. There's nothing wrong with making profit. It's business. But in terms of where I want to see Skelmersdale United Football Club, I want to establish links with all the educational systems in started that already. And like I said, news about that will come probably the end of April. And I want to carry on building this relationship. I started 3 years ago, but if in truth, I started doing my homework way back. The average chairman, I know what's right, I know what hasn't right. People have to remember that the success that Skelmersdale United created was out of its amateur days. They were amateurs at the time when the only amateur FA Cup when they were in 1970, they were an amateur team. In many ways, turning into a semi-professional team was a step too far for them at that particular stage. I think the bloke that was running it at the time, he had a bit of money, but he didn't have enough money. So when you played in the Northern Premier League, this was a guy eventually to get the losing on a regular basis. At the very end of it, taking the place of Southport in the Football League. That's how close the Football League. We were nowhere near it. I just feel that Scarborough, Wigan, teams like that were in the Northern Premier League at the time. No way we could compete with them. We were pretenders. We were pretenders, real pretenders. We couldn't fulfil our obligations. So then, when the chairman decided he wants his money back because he doesn't have a lot of money, he forecloses it. Sold it. That's what we did. We sold it. It's never been an overall. It's just been backwards. It's never trying to be ambitious and invested. It's a difficult game to do. But anybody that thinks they can work this with football, but that's not a solution to anything. And sometimes if something looks too good to be true,
moving into your first kind of arrival for the second tenureship in 2023. So, you came and you were officially announced on Company's House as being chairmanship in June 2023. Now, in and around the months of that date, there were 6 members of the board that departed, 4 of which came pre June 20th and 2 post June 20th. Did you have any involvement in the departure of those board members? And you didn't ask for them to leave, you didn't...
I was approached by Gordon Johnson right about the end of April. The season had just ended. It was the same day that Richard Brody announced he was going to Birmingham. So, sat in the lounge there, Gordon sat on the as it stands right now, I've lost half of my board.
Willing resignations by the board members. You didn't manoeuvre their...
I can't understand it because I've seen Kevin Pepper say something. I'm just trying to look at my notes. He said something about being thought out. So, in reference to what Kevin Pepper keeps repeating, I'm totally unaware of how or why any of the other members of the old committee were forced out of it. I wasn't at the club then. Nor were 4/5 of all people out of the current 5 involved as a board of directors. If he wants to explain on Facebook, because he's good at explaining things on Facebook, if he wants to explain what he's talking about, I'm more than happy to listen to it. I didn't force anybody else. I don't know why. I don't think Gordon would have thought. Gordon be the first one to say that. You need help, support. We all need help and support. You don't want to get rid of people that are giving you all help and support because it's a board chain around you. You're running a football club as a chairman. You can't treat it like that.
That still hangs around the story as to the circumstances regarding consent. So, Whitehorse Park was lost in
2003.
Was it 2003?
Oh, sorry, early 2000s.
Early 2000s, right.
It was lost.
Okay, right, okay. So, just for the record, at this point you're not the chairman. Are you involved in the football club at all in 2003? When Whitehorse Park was lost?
I was a director of the football club when I resigned because I was a bit too busy to return to the football club. During that period between they made an agreement with Czech Properties. They have tickets on the and in the best interest of football that they felt that they needed to find a way to get out of it. It was a conversation more than design. After spoken to the former chairman, the chairman at the time, shop on Sunday morning getting some of the papers. It was suggested that we go down the route of speaking to somebody in particular, and that has to be Czech Properties. So what they did at the time is Czech Properties approached local shareholders. Many of them asked to just give us a share in the company. I don't know. I honestly don't know if any of them shareholders. They had shares, we don't have shares, we used to have shares in the football club. Some of those used to have shares in the football club. I didn't have significant shares, nor did any of my family, so I didn't gain anything from it. But the way it was sold was, listen, you're helping to save Skem. If they don't move, if they don't move from White Moss Park, if they don't sell it and buy somewhere else, then the bank will foreclose on them eventually, and they'll go out of business. So, but I don't know of anybody, and there might have been because there were significant shareholders, but I don't know of anybody. I've been told, but I'm not for a fact it's been proven, but there might have been one or two significant shareholders who paid off a little bit of money. But in terms of the shareholders were paid off, no money came back. If any shareholders got paid off, I'm saying I don't know any of them. There might have been a couple. But other than that, I took anything from it. The exchange was White Moss Park for a new ground fit for purpose at Snowy Corner. And we could argue all day long about whether we got what we wanted, whether we should have employed a solicitor at the time to sit in all the meetings, should we have kept minutes and things like that. We can argue that all day long. We didn't do it. But I wasn't there then. But I rejoined. I said to Arthur Gill, I might be able to get hold of the £50,000. He said it's too late. We've done the deal. We've signed the deal with Czech Properties. From that point onwards, I'm part of the fight. I'm part of the argument. Why have you done this? Why have you done that? I'm asking questions. But you know what? When you look at the overall picture, from people, volunteers, good, honest, hard-working volunteers, they were just trying to protect the legacy. The best way they knew how to. Did they make mistakes? Were there mistakes? Try to learn from the mistakes. When I do some of the things that I did back then, when I say some of the things that I said back then, that's one thing. I'd like to look at what I'm not saying now. Because I'm mature enough for 50 years of age now, and glad to check and say, being involved in football long enough to know that how much it means to everybody. It can't be treated like a. It can't be treated like a cast off. You've got to be all in. You can't have a turn in a football club. You've got to be all in, and I'm all in. And anybody that really, really knows me, would say the same thing. So, like I said, there are a lot of sort of social media trolls there that come up with their own narratives. If that's all you've got in your life, it's all you can do, then carry on doing it by all means. And no doubt, I didn't want to keep replying in a sort of volley, a tennis sort of match volley situation on social media. So I felt as though the best way, I think we all agreed in the end, the best way was to discuss it in spoken word. And I'm hoping, but I know I'm not deaf. I know that we're probably going to get worse publicity from this anyway. We're probably going to get the naysayers will go over what you do. But there's a few of them people out there that tell me and say, he's only keeping all the Skem football clubs to line his own pockets. Could be further from the truth, could it?
You're not making a profit on this.
Nobody makes a profit out of football. Let me be so. Unless you're an actual, you've got a coaching system like these. They're making millions of that's their way of livelihood. This is not my livelihood. I don't make any money out of Skelmersdale United football. You don't. Everybody that's involved, all the directors don't make a penny. We have people like Danny, who's been at the club for years, moved over to Ireland, and is still our secretary, our general secretary, the football club, working remotely in Goal Lake to give us a service that he's been doing for years, that he did over here, and he's just doing as much just good, solid volunteers that have a general interest in seeing the club get back to where we all feel it should be. And listen, I know what people are saying. Some of the people that Kevin is an example. Kevin, back in the day, didn't want me to get my hands back on Stonewall Winners.
Wow.
I don't know, he said I and you know what? That might have been a tit on a few occasions. I might have fell below the standard I set myself and said some things at times. I think it was quite. I've always been quite vocal. In a written sense. Quite happy to discuss things with people verbally. But back in the day, could have toned it down. I think they have moderated it. I mean, the one thing I've always done is, even with the pen, which is supposed to be nicer than the sword, I've been as nice as I can with everyone. I don't slag anybody off. I'm not slagging anybody off now. I still said, so going back to Kevin Panther is, Kevin Panther wouldn't entertain me now. I honestly think it's such a good idea that Craig Wright takes over Sky. Because he's seen something on paper that looks attractive. Is that all you look at? If you're not prepared to look at the bigger picture, and like I said, probably the biggest reason of the war is because of the collaborations that we have at the moment. And it doesn't really, we can come back to Jimmy temporarily, but it wouldn't be a permanent fix for Ken. It's not for Clay Brown. Are Clay Brown going to get control of they hoping just after purely from the under 12s upwards it's going to generate enough income to keep Skelmersdale United Football Club, or as it is now, it's going to be Skelmersdale Town, to keep them competitive? Does he really think that's going to that's enough money there, or is he working it off his fan base? And thinking the fan base is going to be like 300, 400, 500 people, and they might do this, they might all go in there. That's fine. Everybody has a choice in this town. The choice is that they either support Skelmersdale United Football Club or they support this new, this new rebranded club. And I'm pretty sure we'll finish where we're expected to go. Then I'm so looking forward to the derby. That's when the day when head to head, nose to nose, toe to toe. I will take on the day because I want them, as they will, and as is their right. But at the end of the game, I'll shake hands. Doesn't matter who won or lost. I will shake hands and I'll say the best man won. But you. They have a passion. We have a passion. Why does their passion trump ours? Because it's...
What do you want your legacy to be?
Me? I was asked the question, and I think I've answered it before, probably many times before, but I was asked the question, a couple of questions. Why do you bother? What do you do it for? Two slightly different questions, but in a similar sort of line. Why do you benefit to Skelmersdale United because he played centre forward in 67, centre half with the terms of stature, to get the bigger icon hero to Swansea United Football Club. Richie Wadridge used to be best player. These are all big characters that have played a huge part in the legacy of Swansea United Football Club. Ultimately, I won't be a part of that legacy. I just want to protect it while I can. And see where it comes from there.
Thank you very much for your time, Frank.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Ah, yeah. We have it? We have it? Alright. That's good. Taking conversation? breakfast. No. 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 You. Oh, I was having for me tea then. I was having for me tea. Oh. Is it tonight we were meant to be going to IKEA? Oh, right, okay. That's good.
That's not. You can deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
quickest triggers in the whole Wild West. We got sweats and deaths taking odds on bets. Ain't no telling who the upper hand gets. We got man cakes and pancakes. We got a whole stack of trouble when the action breaks. We got.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Woo!